Did you catch that? If not, that's understandable because it was literally impossible for you to. But don't worry, I'll show you what you missed and why. As we all know, a fun way to pass time in the space rig is to kick barrels into the launch bay, even if Mission Control doesn't really like it.
Please don't kick the barrels into the launch bay.
Mission Control even implies that doing so may be dangerous,
Barrels and launch thrusters do not mix.
as if it might cause something catastrophic to happen. But I'm sure it's fine. Still, even if the barrels don't get sucked into the launch thrusters, what happens to them when we leave on a mission? Because much to my chagrin, even if we fill the drop pod with barrels, they don't show up in the mission with us.
It breaks my heart to tell you this, but no, the barrel will not accompany you on your next mission.
Well, some intrepid community members pointed out this discrepancy about 6 years ago and suggested having barrels floating in space in a loading screen. And then, as luck would have it, about 2 months after that, Ghost Ship Games released Update 24, which included a loading screen overhaul. Now, I don't know how the loading screens looked prior to that, but in their current state, there's a unique loading screen for each biome, with the exception of Azure Weald and Hollow Bow, which just reused pre-existing loading screens. Even the loading screen that plays before the tutorial technically counts as a biome-specific loading screen, since the tutorial is in its own biome, Shallow Grotto. There are some pretty interesting things to note about these loading screens, like the Magma Core one actually shows the drop pod going towards the region where the rocks on the surface appear to be glowing hot. And based on where the drop pod is going, it seems like Dense Biozone is actually on the fragment that broke off of Hoxie's rather than Hoxie's itself, as Explorian or DRG Historian mentioned in his Biome Lore series. One weird discovery is that if you load into a biome twice in quick succession, sometimes you'll actually see what appears to be your own drop pod's prior smoke trail already there in the scene. Oh, and in the game files, the one green barrel in the space rig is called Cutie, which doesn't have anything to do with the loading screens, but that's adorable. But to me, the most interesting discovery is in the Crystalline Caverns loading screen. At the very start of that clip, we actually do see several barrels floating in space, which presumably ended up in space because of us dwarves. So where do the barrels in the launch bay go? Into space. Duh. Please let me know in the comments if you noticed the barrels in the loading screen before, because I don't think I've noticed before this year, and I've been playing since 2020. Now, I kinda wish that this would show up on any loading screen if you had kicked the barrels into the launch bay beforehand, kinda like how Doretta's head shows up in the space rig if you bring her head back on the drop pod in an escort mission.
We saved Doretta!
But that's getting pretty nitpicky. And nonetheless, based on the timing of the update, it does seem like this was an Easter egg intentionally added by the developers in response to community suggestions, which is really cool. But then why couldn't we see the barrels in that first clip I played? Well, it seems that since the game is loading the mission and playing the loading screen at the same time, and the game does a fade-in at the start of the loading screen, sometimes the loading screen stutters a bit and we don't actually see the very beginning of the clip, so we don't get to see the barrels at all. In fact, I only noticed this because I used the loading screens for part of the ending in my Synthwave video, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, it's a playlist of some really awesome chill electronic music over aesthetically pleasing footage of the flora, fauna, and landscapes of the biomes in Hoxie's. I'm biased, of course, but I think it's a great video to have on a second screen while you're studying or working on something else, or to just sit down and watch when you want to relax. So I'd highly recommend checking out that video after this one by clicking here, but regardless, thanks for watching, and subscribe for more secrets.
Launch Control reports foreign objects in the launch tube. Would you happen to know anything about it?